So in the last video we did, Godzilla took Superman to the woodshed and gave him the beating of a lifetime. Well, Godzilla does a whole lot more than that. So this initially opens up with Supergirl, and she's really important here, right? Bear with me here for a second. It has to do with Supergirl. Now, like, Flash shows up at Iron Heights prison, basically fighting what looks like Cthulhu, who's a spider. I have no idea who this guy is. We're gonna call him Cthulhu. But like, Flash is absolutely kind of not really having his powers. And the reason why is because like there's this mist which basically slows him down. And wouldn't you know, all the villains in Iron Heights just decide to take this moment to basically orchestrate a prison break, which is exactly what I would do. But because the Flash is slower than he normally is, they just start beating the crap out of the guy because, you know, when you're the fastest man alive, nothing says weakness like gas. And so basically Supergirl shows up on the scene, uses her ability to blow air, and then saves the Flash, and the villains are more or less taken care of. Here's a kicker to all of this, right? While she's there with Green Lantern, she suddenly realizes, she says Kal-El, and she's like, I can't hear his heartbeat. And Green Lantern's like, what? And she's like, I can always hear his heartbeat, always, but it's stopped. And they're like, no, there's no way Superman's dead. Son. Godzilla, in the last video we did, it turns out Godzilla killed Superman. How crazy is that, right? So then you transition to New York, right? Superman's lifeless body is just laying there. You got Billy Batson, Shazam, standing over him just like, my God. And then Atom Smasher shows up. Now here's the thing, right? Atom Smasher, the guy's very similar to like Giant Man from Marvel Comics, right? Like his strength and so on increases proportionally with his size. This guy decides he wants to go toe to toe with Godzilla. You know what Godzilla says? You know what Godzilla says, y'all. Godzilla says, man, son, you better come strong. Dude, he whips that tail, sends that dude flying. Now the guy's trying to hold his own as best he can, right? Props to him. Props to this guy. He's doing what he can where he can. But it is Atom Smasher, right? Like, this guy sucks. So this dude just gets absolutely crushed. Hawkgirl shows up to like help Billy Batson out and is like, we got to get Superman out of here, right? Like we need to do something. We got to get this guy going, right? Get him to safety, something, because they have no idea the fact that he's dead. As far as they're concerned, he's just unconscious because Godzilla just gave him the beat down of a lifetime. But then while Billy Batson is watching all of this, he's like, yeah, we'll try to help. I'll try to offer some kind of a distraction. He looks up just in time to see Godzilla kill Atom Smasher. Godzilla, man, dude, he's leaving no crumbs. You know what I mean? Like, he's just taking it to him. So at that point, Billy's just like, okay, this guy's killing the Justice League, right? Like, this guy's got to go. So he's like, I'll distract it, get Superman out of here. And Hawkgirl's like, I'm not going to leave you. And it's like, dude, if you don't get out of here, man, like, he's like, this is all my fault. I have to fix it, yada, yada, yada. Now, here's the thing, man. One of the things to know about Billy Batson, right? Billy Batson, this dude slept on, right? Like, people don't realize, like, comic book fans know all about Billy Batson, but for non-comic book readers, they're just like, yeah, Zachary Levi, who's pissed off because James Gunn's brother gets to be in the movies and Zachary Levi might get the boot, right? Quit being jealous. So the thing about it is, like, he's a guy that people don't really realize is as capable as he is. The reality here is that Shazam, depending on who's writing the story, every bit as strong as Superman, right? Sometimes stronger if he decides to invoke magic in a fight with Superman, right? This kid calls down the lightning, right? Shazam, right? Brings Godzilla down, or at least offers a distraction. He's like, get Superman out of here. I'll lure the monster out of the city. He's like, but first, it's time for a little bit of revenge, right? They absolutely punch the crap out of Godzilla, sending this dude flying across the city into a whole bunch of buildings, killing a bunch of innocent people because the Justice League don't care about the lives of the citizens in their own city. So what you do is you transition back over to like the Flash, who's kind of doing his thing, because the reality is when Supergirl and Green Lantern took off, they just left him there, right? They were just like, we gotta go, right? And just bolted directly for Superman. But because all the villains were orchestrating a prison break, right? Like the rogues, like Captain Cold and all these guys, launch their attack against the Flash. They just kind of momentarily freeze him. And then they start going after Green Lantern, who's kind of recovered back at the scene. And then of course you switch over to Wonder Woman and Donna Troy, who are basically dealing with a giant woolly mammoth. Nobody cares. So what you do here is you jump to Oliver Queen, the Green Arrow. But one of the things to remember is that all of this happened because Lex Luthor and his guys, messing with interdimensional travel, ended up jumping to an alternate reality where you had all these titans that we know, Godzilla, King Kong, the whole nine yards, and inadvertently brought them into the main DC universe. Now, as interesting and cool as Green Arrow is, all those little quips and all that kind of stuff, This guy is just painfully unprepared to face off against any of these titans. The guy's got no real powers. He's got awesome arrows and he can do some cool stuff, but there's not a whole lot he can do here. He's watching King Kong, right? King Kong, the beast, right? He's watching this guy just dominating all these titans. And while it is interesting to see, the reality is that the best that he can do is just flee for his life. And even in the ensuing chaos, just like collateral damage, right? Like bodies hitting the floor and so on and so forth, Oliver Queen is just sent flying. Now, Supergirl does show up here, and initially she goes to talk to King Kong. And we know how King Kong has a thing for white chicks. She's like, I mean no harm to you, but you must back away from my friend. And King Kong just kind of looks at her for a second, and she's like, Oliver, move to a safe distance. I don't know how this is going to go. And King Kong's just kind of interested in her, right? As soon as he goes to touch her, she's like, no, right? And just punches this guy, right? Just like punches him in the face. But here's the thing, man. It ain't like when they hit Godzilla, son. It ain't like when they hit Godzilla. And like they said that guy flying. King Kong's just like, don't do that. That's literally all it is, right? He just like wipes his face and he's just like, don't do that. And so like she's absolutely pummeling King Kong, right? So literally it's Supergirl versus King Kong, which is kind of cool. I think we're all just kind of waiting for the giant fight that happens when King Kong fights Godzilla. But then you jump to Gotham City, right? Now, here's the thing. So like Batman and Batwoman along with Dinah, right? Like Black Canary and iPhone, they're kind of having this conversation. Batman says the heart rate dampening device is effectively keeping the creature sedated, right? It's kind of a stopgap until they can figure out what it is that they're gonna do. But the big question that's asked here, really by Black Canary, but kind of everybody as a whole, is where did they come from and why are they rampaging in cities? And the whole idea is, well, not really entirely sure. It all kind of seems to be a little murky. We'll have to try to get an answer to this. But Billy Batson shows up and says, it's actually my fault. I screwed up, which it kind of is, right? There's a little bit more going on behind the scenes, and we'll cover that as we get further through the story. But Billy Batson is just kind of like, yeah, I kind of goofed. I was just trying to help, right? He's kind of the one that screwed everything up. What's going on behind the scenes is him talking to the rest of the Justice League and saying, Superman is dead, right? I was just trying to help. That's where I screwed up. That's why it's my fault, because they didn't know what he was talking about, right? They were just kind of like, what's your fault, right? And he's like, Superman's dead. And the first thing Cyborg says is, we have to tell Lois, right? What does Batman say? No, we do not tell Lois Lane, right? We cannot tell Lois Lane. Do not say that. He is not dead, right? There's no way he can be. The response to Batman here, nobody says a word to Lois, not until I see Clark. Now, if you know Batman comics effectively, right? If you know Batman comics well enough, what Batman is basically saying here is it's almost kind of like a subliminal message to Godzilla, right? Godzilla, of course, can't hear it, and it's really just kind of him speaking metaphorically. Do you guys know what it is that Batman's saying? Do you guys know what Batman's saying? Here's exactly what Batman's saying. It's like El Presador said back in the day, right? Godzilla didn't beat Superman, he just pissed him off, and now he's fucked, because when Superman comes back, he's gonna be out for blood. With that being said, guys, we're gonna bring this to an end. If you guys need to get caught up, make sure you click this link to the last video, and I will catch you all later. Peace.